I think that's the beauty of the sex scenes that are written in this, is that they are written as moments of connection between two characters. They're not, in my opinion, remotely pornographic. They
Mm.
are two characters coming together who love each other. So it's about playing the scene rather than playing the event or the sex scene itself.
There are so many really kind of hard subjects to cover across these 12 episodes, mental health issues, the kind of the sexual, sexual behaviors of people, that kind of thing as well. But the way that you've covered it, you have to really think about I guess, being really responsive to your actors and how comfortable and making them feel safe, but also in terms of the subject matter and making sure that you approach that in the right way with kind of, yes, authority, but really in a kind of thoughtful way as well.
Um, it's like it is a very, there's lots of amazing stuff in the novel, and I think we knew from the very beginning that there were challenges, that it is about a certain kind of feeling of intimacy thing I said drew me to it originally. And that intimacy, I think what we tried to do was to just not differentiate really between the scenes which were like in which there was a component of physical intimacy, or ones in which it was about, the characters are sitting opposite each other, like either end of a big room. It's all part of the same story. And what we wanted to do was represent the truth of each moment as well as we could. And I think when you have that as your guide, it that if you stick to that, you can't go very far wrong, because there's a sort of, it's an honorable thing to try and do, which is just tell the truth to the story truthfully of what these characters are feeling for each other. And it so happens in this relationship that kind of connection is felt across every aspect of themselves, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and so but we were aware of how important it was to get that right, and to maintain that sort of sense of, I don't know, delicate watchfulness, which is what I think we talked about a lot in terms of the style. Just that we would try as sensitive as we could to watch what was happening and follow it as if we were really desperate to discover the sort of truth that the characters were feeling at that time. I just noticed somebody's asking if we can change the view to
Speaker view.
The sort of grid view, isn't that it?
Yeah.
But I think that's more the person watching rather than us, isn't that right?
I think it is probably.
I think it isn't us. I think you guys have to do it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so does that answer your question, Edith?
Yeah, no, it totally does. And just going back to what we were talking about before with Daisy and Paul, and the idea of, you play these characters over a certain number of years, but the fact that in a day you may well have to play that character over 3 different time frames and stuff. What's, is that a challenge, or is that an exciting part of the job and of playing these characters? How did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was very lucky that Sharon and Sandra, who did my hair and makeup, and Lorna, who did the costume, were so wonderful at doing that, or for me physically, because I think the clothes that you wear and the way you style yourself really make you feel different, so I think, especially, I remember the first time kind of wearing the kind of school uniform and feeling very young, and I think that really helped. But also having Lenny and Hetty to guide us was really useful. We always felt that, with Lenny, we'd discuss the scene, so we'd always kind of, I guess, ground ourselves and kind of check in before we were about to kind of lift off, I guess you could say. And then, and also having the book. I mean, it was so amazing having, your character, like, sort of in depth, the way your character is feeling it with each scene. And what I loved is the fact that, there is sort of not much dialogue. It is very sparse, and so you were allowed, and also the way kind of Susie films, and being very up close meant that you really were allowed to just think the things and feel the feelings, and Lenny and Susie would kind of capture it, and that's very freeing as an actor, because you don't have to forcefully project something. You can kind of just imagine it and think it.
And how do you prepare as actors for those intimate scenes, you know, in terms of Lenny very clearly talks in it, you know, in advance to you about that and about making sure you both feel safe and comfortable with anything. But with each other, how do you both kind of prepare for that yourselves as actors?
I suppose it's because the process of doing intimate scenes was brand new to me as it was to Daisy. So I think it was a matter of like during that 2 weeks rehearsal that we had prior to shooting, we did a kind of trial day with Edith that would replicate a day on set. So suddenly you're not going to set on the first day that you have to shoot those scenes worrying about what the actual mechanics of that day looks like. So anything that you can control and anything that production could control in terms of making us feel comfortable was put in place. So then you suddenly you go to bed the night before and you're thinking of the scene rather than the event. You know, because you know the structure is in place. You feel safe, you feel comfortable, you feel listened to, and then you try. And I think that's the beauty of the sex scenes that are written in this, is that they are written as moments of connection between two characters. They're not, in my opinion, remotely pornographic. Mm-hmm. They are two characters coming together who love each other. So it's about playing the scene rather than playing the event or the sex scene itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daisy,
oh, sorry, Daisy. Go
on, Lainey, off you go.
I was just going to say the other thing that was like the very first time that they have sex, we talked about a lot, the desire to track the scene from the two of them sitting down and chatting in that, in Connell's tiny bedroom, and not kind of break the scene into two parts, the preamble and the lovemaking, but actually watch the whole thing as one long encounter, you know, and not think, you know, as if the sort of the implied filmmakers are not even aware that this is a sort of, we've stepped into some other realm. It's just a continuation of what's happening. And so much of what is so interesting about that scene is what's happening on the characters' faces. Mm-hmm. And in a way, the nudity is allowed to be an incidental truth about the encounter rather than the point of any of the images.
Yeah, absolutely. Daisy, what about for you, just in terms of that, you know, preparing and...
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything can really prepare you really for the surrealness of what it is like to kind of on your first day, you know, it is a different sort of thing. But as Paul said, I mean, we were so lucky to have had such a wonderful kind of experience filming them, and they, you know, they ended up being a very positive thing, and just like, you know, Lenny and Paul said, it's really refreshing to be able to I guess experience them as any other dialogue scene. You know, they don't feel any different, and you know, I love that episode 2 scene because you can see those two people kind of carrying on communicating. It just becomes physical, and it just meant that you were able to act it. You know, you didn't have to feel self-conscious. So but having Ita and having such a lovely crew who really looked after us and made us feel safe, it just meant that the pressure was removed, and sort of by the end, it's funny, as human beings you get very, very used to something that initially is kind of awfully surreal. By the end, you didn't even think it was just another filming. So that was wonderful that happens, because, you know, when you first look at the schedule, they slightly pop out and you go, oh yeah, next Thursday.
What you were saying about that kind of thing, I'm almost you almost forget whatever's in there's so many brilliant scenes in over the 12 episodes, and one for me that I just think your performance in it is extraordinary, Daisy, is the kind of camera shoot in Stockholm or in Sweden, wherever you are in Sweden, which I just think is just, it's so powerful. Really, 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 really is, I think. So yeah, congratulations on the whole thing, but that's just mind-blowing, I think, that performance in that specific scene. Yeah. Right, listen, we've got loads of questions that have been coming in. Let's start at the top. We got Molly Jackson. Do you all have a favourite part to shoot, or was there a sequence that you found really fun to create?
There was a few bits the scenes that I absolutely loved that were really hard to shoot, so that you knew they were good, but they kind of were tough. And then there were ones which were great and lovely to shoot. I think I loved shooting a lot of the stuff that, all the stuff between Connell and Marianne, the intimate scenes. There's a scene in episode 5 where they talk to each other very honestly, and Connell apologizes for what he did to Marianne in school. And that was very powerful that day. It felt like there was something kind of just immediately strong about that, and I love doing it. And I also love doing some of the characters around, like group scenes with Connell's friends, and then later with Marion's friends in college, because they're all brilliant actors that are around the guys. Lots of just great actors like Sebastian D'Souza, who plays Gareth, and Fiona O'Shea and Sean Dunn and Aina Hardwick, and just brilliant, just brilliant actors that I absolutely love. And they were really fun to shoot.
I love the scenes with you, Paul, and Sarah Green, your mum, and because they're
she's so brilliant in the show, and also just like the best crack to have around on set.
Yeah.
And she gives you that hug at Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not you, Daisy, but it's Marianne. She gives Marianne that hug at the door at Christmas for just a wee bit longer than, and it's just, it says so much, and just that moment of intimacy. It's beautiful.
I love Lorraine. She's the best. That's one of my favourite scenes actually to watch is the wonderful scene between Lorraine and Connell in the car when she gets out. I just think it's, you're like, yes, Lorraine. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, you idiot, Connell.